Chapter 1073. Since the completion of the merciless water and fire, Yi Chen had never used its full power in a battle. Against Lu Wenxiu, he had only used 30% of its power, 40 to 50% against Xiao Shiyu, 60% against Zhou Jian, and 80% against Xia Shaoshan. Right now, Yi Chen had increased the merciless water and fire's power to 90%. The dark green sword screen was simply invincible, nothing could stop it. One sword attack had cut through the black dragon-shaped qi. Yi Chen waved his arm, two dark green sword screens formed a cross shape and attacked towards Yang Ting. In the middle of the cross, a dark green light ball was born. The jade-green sword screen connected the heavens and the earth. Yang Ting had no time to dodge. He crossed his arms, and the muscles that were covered with dragon armor wriggled crazily, forming a dragon armor shield with a diameter of half a meter. The moment the dragon armor shield appeared, the jade-green cross-shaped sword screen slashed towards it, as fast as lightning. Swoosh! The merciless water and fire's power was unparalleled. Yang Ting was smashed into the ground from midair. Both of his feet rubbed against the ground as he slid down. Because of the huge force, the hard surface of the platform had been rubbed, leaving behind 2-inch deep marks. All of a sudden, rocks were flying everywhere, and dust was rising everywhere. The intense friction had caused both of his feet to burn with a red flame, and there was even lightning flashing around. After sliding for thousands of miles, Yang Ting could feel that the merciless water and fire's power had been reduced by more than half. It was no longer as unstoppable as before. When he was about to shatter the cross-shaped sword screen, a horrifying scene happened. The dragon armor-covered shield had a huge hole in the middle, and a dark green light ball had shot towards his chest. Not good. Yang Ting was shocked, and his whole body felt cold. Boom! The dark green light ball looked small, but the power it had exploded with was earth-shattering. Not only had it pierced through Yang Ting's chest, but it had also caused an explosion. In the next second, a constantly expanding dark green sphere covered Yang Ting. Inside the sphere, the sword qi resonated with each other, shuttling back and forth. Each sword qi was no weaker than a normal attack from Yi Chen. Under the attack of thousands of sword qi, Yang Ting's body was covered in blood, and the dragon armor was flying everywhere. How can there be such a terrifying killer move? Everyone stared blankly at this scene. In their line of sight, Yang Ting was enveloped by the jade-green sphere of light and carried into the sky. His entire body was suspended in the sphere of light, receiving the punishment of 1,000 cuts and death by 1,000 cuts. Puff! One of Yang Ting's arms was cut countless times by the sword qi before it was severed from the shoulder. Although it still contained the armored dragon force and dragon will, it was no longer under Yang Ting's control. Soon, the severed arm exploded from the outside to the inside, turning into dust. Still not giving up. Yi Chen frowned and stared at Yang Ting's abdomen. Yang Ting's abdomen swelled up slightly, and soon after, the swollen part rose to his chest. In the next moment, Yang Ting opened his mouth, and an iron-black light wave gushed out. Originally, the jade-green sphere of light was in a state of absolute balance. As long as the sword qi was not exhausted, it would never disappear. However, the appearance of the iron-black light wave broke this balance. The jade-green light wave twisted a few times before being penetrated by the light wave. The sword qi lost its connection and began to randomly cut through it. The range of the attack expanded to several tens of thousands of li, and correspondingly, its might was reduced by hundreds of thousands of times. I, Yang Ting, will not lose. An angry roar resounded, accompanied by a wave of iron-black light wave. This was the innate ability of a dragon, Dragon Breath. Dragon Breath was actually the essence of dragon power, which was an even purer form of dragon power. Yang Ting was at the fourth layer of life and death realm, and his dragon breath was equivalent to the dragon power of a fifth layer. Once it was shot out, its destructive power would be astonishing, not inferior to Yang Ting's full power attack. At first, the dragon breath was only as thick as an arm, but it continued to expand. By the time it reached several thousand li away, it was already more than 100 meters thick. Dozens of dragon breaths shot out, flooding the eastern side of the arena, submerging Yi Chen. Creak. With a flicker of his right hand, Yi Chen caught a strand of sword qi. This strand of sword qi was hidden within the dragon breath, and was extremely sharp. However, as soon as it entered Yi Chen's hand, it immediately became gentle. This was because this was Yi Chen's sword qi. The current Yang Ting seemed incomparably brave and fierce, but in fact, he had already reached the end of his road. His body was filled with sword qi from the explosion of merciless water and fire, to the extent that even the dragon breath he shot out contained sword qi. Moreover, due to the impure nature of the dragon breath, its might was not at its peak, and its power was weakening very quickly. Of course, this was also Yang Ting's intelligence. He had borrowed the innate ability dragon breath to vent out the sword qi he couldn't clear out. Otherwise, if he used normal methods to clear it out, the time it would take would be hundreds of times longer. Unfortunately, the opponent had underestimated the destruction sword intent. Although the sword qi could be vented out through dragon breath, the destruction sword intent would still remain within the opponent's body. The destruction sword intent's power lay in its ability to transform other energies into destruction sword qi, such as Yang Ting's dragon power, blood qi, and even flesh. If it didn't eliminate the destruction sword intent, the effect would be minimal. Obviously, Yang Ting had also discovered this point. He no longer spat out his dragon breath, but instead instigated the giant dragon's will to sweep through his entire body, not letting go of any corner. It's too late. Yi Chen shook his head. He raised the demon-slaughtering sword high up and slashed down. A dark green sword screen flashed past. Yang Ting, who had used most of the giant dragon's will to eliminate the destruction sword intent, could no longer resist Yi Chen's merciless water and fire, and was cut into two halves by the sword. Yi Chen won. I really didn't expect that even tyrannical dragon Yang Ting would be defeated. That's right, there isn't a single wound on Yi Chen's body. This is a complete victory. If Yi Chen's previous achievements had shocked everyone, now everyone was already numb to it. Even someone as strong as Yang Ting didn't seem to pose any threat to his opponent, and was at a disadvantage from the beginning to the end. At the last moment, everyone thought that Yang Ting had a chance to make a comeback, but who would have thought that it was a scene of a cornered beast fighting? Now it's up to Ling Fifan and Audiobook. The battles would not be delayed because of the crowd's emotions. After the 9th and 10th battles ended, the 17th round began. Soon, Ling Fifan was matched against tyrannical dragon Yang Ting. Just like Yi Chen, as long as Ling Fifan defeated Yang Ting, he would undoubtedly be ranked in the top 3, provided that he had the strength to do so. Rank 4 Sacred Dragon Fist. Lifeless Azura Slash. The battle between Yang Ting and Ling Fifan was extremely intense. The dragon-shaped qi and the saber qi intertwined, creating a dazzling scene. Ling Fifan, it's impossible for you to defeat me with your lifeless Azura Slash. A huge saber mark pierced through the sky of the stage, sending Yang Ting flying. The dragon shield on his left arm was sliced in half, but in the next second, the dragon shield instantly recovered. True Azura Slash. Ling Fifan's expression remained unchanged. An Azura silhouette appeared behind him. The silhouette was 100 zhang tall, and the long saber was also 100 zhang long. With a single slash, the entire stage was dyed red. Yang Ting's entire body turned into a puddle of blood, his vitality completely extinguished. As I thought. Yi Chen stared at Ling Fifan. Just like him, Ling Fifan had been holding back his strength from the beginning. When he first met Ling Fifan, Yi Chen already had a feeling that he wouldn't be able to win even if he went all out. After such a long time, he had no idea how much Ling Fifan had improved. Fortunately, he had improved as well. Chapter 1074. So scary. This Ling Fifan still has the true Shura slash. Earlier, he killed Xia Shaoshan with one slash, and now he killed Yang Ting with one slash. Yang Ting is ranked second on the Sky King list, but this time, he is not even in the top 3. True Shura slash, this must be the evolved version of Shura slash. Could it be that there is still the true lifeless Shura slash? Everyone discussed spiritedly, making guesses in their hearts. Ling Fifan, who had defeated Yang Ting with the true Shura slash, landed on the stage with ease. Clank. His blade returned to its scabbard. Yang Ting turned around and looked at Yi Chen and Atijio. This is so interesting. He has actually reached the 3rd level of the selfless realm. This is a realm that even I have not reached. The peerless king's eyes flashed with excitement as he rubbed his chin. Battle after battle began, and battle after battle ended. When it came to the 9th battle of the 17th round, the crowd was in an uproar. The 9th battle was between Atijio and Yi Chen. Without Ling Fifan, this battle would definitely be the most intense one, and the one that would decide the winner. Nobody had expected the two to meet so soon. The peerless king Audiobook is proficient in fist arts, palm arts, finger arts, and leg arts. It is said that he is also studying spear arts. In terms of the variety of arts he has learned, no one can beat him. However, up until now, he has only used the palm art, the galaxy godly palm, and the finger art, the extreme wind and water art. Even Xia Shaoshan could not force him to use his 3rd art. Yi Chen is amazing as well. One man and one sword, he made it to the top 3. Even Ling Fifan was not as amazing as him. The peerless Atijio and the supreme sword art Yi Chen, the two were about to battle, which made everyone's heart beat faster. They could not imagine what would happen next, and who would gain the upper hand. But one thing was for sure, this would be a battle that they would regret for the rest of their lives if they missed it. On the battling platform, Atijio and Yi Chen stood facing each other. Although the two didn't deliberately release their auras, everyone didn't know whether it was an illusion or not, but in their eyes, the figures of Yi Chen and Audiobook were getting bigger and bigger, filling up their line of sight. It was as if the two of them were the only people left in the world, and everything else had disappeared. What a powerful mental pressure. Yan Feihua sucked in a breath of cold air. The two's essence, qi, and spirit were so powerful that it made one's hair stand on end. Before they even made a move, the spectators were already affected. As illusionists, Li Yifeng and Ji Qingyue had serious expressions on their faces. Naturally, they would not be a match for Audiobook and Yi Chen. However, they did not expect that their spiritual cultivation had reached such a level. Just their spiritual cultivation alone was enough to create subtle hallucinations. This was a testament to their strength. The moment has finally come. Let's begin. Audiobook had been looking forward to fighting with Yi Chen for a long time. When he first saw Yi Chen, he knew that the other party would not be a simple person. He would most likely be the one to walk to the end. Yes, let's begin. Yi Chen also longed for a battle with Audiobook. The meaning of life was to challenge. If there was no opponent, it would be very sad and life would lose its meaning. Pop. Pop. Both of them released their domains at almost the same time. Audiobook's domain was dazzling and colorful, like a dreamy starry sky. Yi Chen's sword domain was full of sharpness and fierceness. When the two clashed, the void resounded with the sound of countless bubbles bursting. Galaxy Godly Palm. As soon as the domain was released, Audiobook immediately launched an attack. The blue galaxy-like palm energy roared and rushed towards Yi Chen, like a waterfall flowing across the galaxy. Rip. The sound of cloth tearing rang out. Yi Chen held the Demon Slayer sword with both hands and slashed the blue galaxy. Audiobook purely wanted to test Yi Chen's bottom line. He repeatedly performed the Galaxy Godly Palm. With him as the center, countless blue galaxies rushed towards Yi Chen, wave after wave, endlessly. Yi Chen's movement technique was elegant and swift. Every time he moved, he would definitely split open a blue galaxy. Gradually, Yi Chen was less than 10 miles away from a Zhu. Absolute feng shui. Seeing that the galaxy godly palm could not do anything to Yi Chen, a Zhu's expression did not change. He raised his right hand's index and middle fingers and jabbed towards Yi Chen. A sense of danger flashed through Yi Chen's mind as he shifted dozens of meters to the side, avoiding that finger attack. He looked sideways and saw a bright white light that was sharper than any blade. The white light landed on the surface of the platform. Swoosh! 100-meter-long crack appeared on the surface of the platform. Such a strong killing power. The second martial art is already so powerful, then what about the third and fourth? Everyone was shocked. The contest stage was not an ordinary object. It was already amazing to leave a mark on it, but a Zhu was actually able to cut a 100-meter-long crack on it. Xia Shaoshan raised his eyebrows. He was defeated by this absolute feng shui. Although it was a finger technique, it was sharper than any martial art. Even his killing intent oscillation fist could be cut open. Puchi puchi puchi, his figure flickered. Both of Ah Jiu's hands were like butterflies flying through flowers. One after another, sharp white aura cut towards Yi Chen. The power is not bad. Yi Chen's figure flickered as well. A dark green sword curtain appeared. He slashed horizontally and vertically. The entire center of the contest stage was under Yi Chen's attack range. Although that sharp white aura was extremely sharp and could cut through anything, compared to the dark green sword curtain, it was still a bit weaker. Of course, Yi Chen had also increased the merciless water and fire's power to 90%. Ding! Ding! Dang! The two fought from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the edge of the contest stage. The battle was extremely intense. The absolute feng shui cannot do anything to Yi Chen. Now, a Zhu should be using his third martial art, right? Someone said with anticipation. Of course, but I wonder if the third martial art is a fist art or a leg art. It should be a fist art. It is said that some people have seen a Zhu use a fist art, but no one has ever seen a Zhu use a leg art. It has appeared. It is indeed a fist art. Cries of surprise resounded. On the contest stage, a scarlet halo appeared behind a Zhu. As the halo appeared, his aura soared. He punched out, shaking the entire contest stage. The scarlet flame light exploded like a star exploding or a supernova. Red giant star fist. Using a fist art to create a star explosion. A strange light flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. Although the majority of powerful life and death kings could shatter stars, it did not mean that they could ignore the might of a star explosion. For example, when a bomb did not explode, one could shatter it with a stomp. But once the bomb exploded, one would be killed in an instant. Now it is time to test your bottom line. A Zhu said inwardly. Seeing the flame light getting closer and closer, Yi Chen's face did not have the slightest trace of panic or impatience. Holding the demon slaughtering sword tightly, Yi Chen raised it over his head and let out a low roar before slashing out. Merciless water and fire's full power was unleashed. Bang! This time, it was not a dark green sword scream, but a dark green light sphere. The dark green light sphere shot out, annihilating everything in its path, including that powerful flame light. Not good. A Zhu was startled. It was the same sword art, but this one was several times more powerful than the previous one. His red giant fist couldn't stop it in the slightest. Subduing Dragon Divine Kick. Without any hesitation, a Zhu used a leg art, which was also his most powerful martial art, Subduing Dragon Divine Kick. Subduing Dragon Divine Kick, as the name implied, this leg art's might could even subdue giant dragons. Giant dragons were not limited to iron-armored giant dragons. In fact, iron-armored giant dragons were only at the bottom of the giant dragons. They were ordinary giant dragons, and above them were crystal giant dragons, golden giant dragons, and dark giant dragons. The shadow of the leg, which was filled with a metallic luster, was as long as a street. The leg kicked the dark green ball of light. Rumble. A powerful explosion spread out, and the steel leg shadow shattered inch by inch. Countless sword chi slashed over. The dark green light sphere looked like a light sphere from the outside, but in fact, it was a light sphere formed by countless sword chi. Once the light sphere was destroyed, one would have to face the light sphere's decomposition and the countless sword chi's attack. Audiobook didn't have time to use any martial arts to block the sword chi. He could only cross his arms and curl up his body, trying to reduce the area of attack on his body. Chi. 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 One after another, the sword chi slashed on Audiobook's protective Jin Yuan. Gradually, the protective Jin Yuan became thinner and more unstable. With a pop, the protective Jin Yuan was broken. In the next moment, countless sparks appeared on Audiobook's body, which was caused by the friction between the sword chi and his body. What kind of sword art is this? It broke through Audiobook's red giant fist and subduing dragon divine kick in a row. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't even imagine how powerful this sword attack is. It seems like Audiobook won't be able to hold on for much longer. In everybody's eyes, Audiobook was already at the end of his rope. Numerous sword scars appeared on his body. These sword scars were wriggling as if they were alive. Of course, everybody was also amazed at Audiobook's powerful defense, which seemed to be even higher than Yang Ting's. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been torn apart by the sword chi long ago. Late rank 6 spirit body. Yi Chen immediately guessed that Audiobook's spirit body had already reached late rank 6. A rank 6 spirit body had a powerful ability to absorb damage. For example, Su King's spirit body had reached rank 6. However, Su King was only at early rank 6, and his cultivation base had not reached the first layer of life and death realm. He was far from being comparable to Audiobook. Raising the demon slaughtering sword once again, Yi Chen slashed at Audiobook. Swish! The dark green light sphere was as fast as a flickering light. The closer it got to the opponent, the larger its diameter became. Trying to dodge it with one's own speed was almost impossible. First of all, the light sphere's speed was close to light speed. Adding on the fact that the range of the light sphere was extremely large, one would have to surpass light speed to avoid it. Otherwise, one would inevitably be affected by the aftershock. Just as Audiobook was about to be defeated by this sword strike, 3 Audioboks suddenly appeared in front of him. The 3 Audioboks stood in a row, from left to right, and separately displayed the Galaxy Divine Palm, Extreme Feng Shui, and Red Giant Star Fist. The 3 great martial arts joined together and shattered the dark green light ball. Full battle power. Yi Chen shockingly discovered that these 3 Aegis possessed the same battle power as the main body. There was no difference at all. The combined attack of 3 Aegis could indeed shatter his merciless water and fire. Chapter 1075. Very powerful. You actually forced out my martial phantom. A powerful chi energy erupted, and the wriggling sword scars on Audiobook's body flew out like swimming fish, revolving around Audiobook. In the next moment, they disappeared without a trace. Taking a step forward, Audiobook's figure flickered and appeared on the right side of the 3 Audioboks, standing in the 4th position. The 4 Audioboks had the same aura and battle strength. 8 gazes locked onto Yi Chen. Not a will projection or a consciousness projection. What are they? Yi Chen creased his brows. These 3 Aegis that suddenly appeared couldn't be a will projection or a consciousness projection. The will projection only had 10% of the battle power of the main body, while the consciousness projection only had 30%. However, These three Audiobook had the same battle power as the main body, giving off an intense feeling of danger. What? 4 Audiobook? 4 times the battle strength. 1 is already so powerful, what would 4 be like? Is this Audiobook's true battle strength? Simply unimaginable. The spectators were stupefied, their faces full of disbelief. It wasn't that they hadn't seen powerful killer moves before. A 7th layer life and death titled Monarch's killer move was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than theirs. However, they had never seen a killer move that could produce 3 doppelgangers with the same battle strength as the main body. Yi Chen, if you don't have a stronger ability, then this is the end. The 4 Audiobook simultaneously spoke and launched their moves. Star River Palm, Absolute Wind and Water, Red Giant Fist, and Tyrannical Subduing Dragon Divine Kick, 4 killer moves bombarded Yi Chen side by side. Previously, the 3 killer moves combined could already break through Merciless Water and Fire. Now, the combined might of the 4 killer moves was at least several times stronger than Merciless Water and Fire, and this was only because of the internal friction. As you wish. Yi Chen's fluttering black hair and clothes suddenly stopped. The chaotic chi energy in the surroundings seemed to have been cut off and stopped in the void. Within Yi Chen's sword domain, everything was in a state of stillness. The only thing that didn't stop was Yi Chen's thoughts and himself. Instant sword domain. The sword domain derived from the momentary brilliance had the effect of freezing space. Audiobook's 4 killer moves instantly entered Yi Chen's sword domain. In the next moment, the 4 killer moves slowed down but did not stop. The distance is too far. Yi Chen gave up on using momentary brilliance and chose to use Merciless Water and Fire to break the 4 killer moves that had their speed greatly reduced. What is this? The ability to stop space. A strange look flashed in Audiobook's eyes. That's right, it was this ability that broke my 9-star alignment. Wuxia suddenly understood. His strength was far inferior to Jiu and Yi Chen. Therefore, at that time, Yi Chen had only slightly used this ability. Since the process had only lasted for a split second, it was so fast that he didn't even have time to react before disappearing. Thus, he couldn't figure out what went wrong. The ability to stop space. Interesting, but it does not seem to be able to stop my killer move. Jiu regained his composure and said. Indeed. Yi Chen did not deny it. Instant sword domain was ultimately derived from the momentary brilliance, and the ability to stop space was less than 30% of the momentary brilliance's strength. It was more than enough to deal with others, but it was far from enough to deal with an expert like Jiu. It could not completely stop the opponent's killer move. Swoosh 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 swoosh. Phantoms flashed, and the 4 Audiobook pulled apart from each other and attacked Yi Chen from 4 different angles. Majestic palm energy, sharp white light, explosive fist energy, and extremely destructive leg shadows. Even if the 4 killer moves were separated, they still had great power, and defense alone could not block them. The jade-green sword screen stretched horizontally, and Yi Chen broke the blue palm energy, sharp finger energy, and explosive fist energy, but that was all. Yi Chen could not block the most destructive leg shadow in time, and his left arm was kicked. The sound of bones breaking resounded, and Yi Chen's left arm was broken. Only the bones of the left arm were broken. Jiu's eyes narrowed. He knew how powerful the dragon-subduing divine kick was. This was a leg art that could subdue a giant dragon of the same realm, but when it kicked Yi Chen, it actually only broke the bones of his left arm. How strong was his defense? Even he and Yang Ting seemed to be much weaker than him in terms of defense. Yi Chen shook his head. He naturally knew that his defense was unbelievably strong, and this was mainly because his immortal sword intent had already reached the 7th step, which was equivalent to an ordinary 8th-step sword intent, and an ordinary 8th-step sword intent could automatically form a protective sword intent. Compared to a 6th-step spirit body, the protective sword intent was even stronger. Although it was not as strong as a 7th-step spirit body, it was definitely equivalent to a peak 6th-step spirit body. In addition, the sword domain also slowed down the attacking speed of the dragon subduing divine kick, causing the power of this kick to decrease a lot. Being able to break the bones of his left arm with one kick was enough to prove the power of the dragon subduing divine kick. Be careful. The broken bones of the left arm were just a small injury, and the martial will contained in it was not difficult to remove. After a breath, Yi Chen had already recovered. Raising the demon-slaughtering sword high up, Yi Chen slashed towards Zhuo's body. Whoosh! The dark green light ball was like a light wave as it slashed out horizontally. Not good. Zhuo immediately knew what Yi Chen was thinking. The opponent clearly knew the characteristics of the martial arts phantom. The other three Zhuo could only use the galaxy palm, extreme wind and water fist, and only the main body could use the most powerful dragon subduing divine kick. Therefore, the opponent chose to ignore the other three killing moves and attack his main body. Although he knew what Yi Chen was thinking, Zhuo did not have a better way to deal with it. Facing Yi Chen's full power attack, Zhuo chose to meet it head-on. The result was obvious. The dragon subduing divine kick was not a match for the merciless water and fire. The leg shadow was destroyed, and Zhuo was killed by countless sword chi, each of which contained a destructive sword intent that was extremely difficult to get rid of. Of course, Yi Chen also suffered from Zhuo's counterattack. The other three Zhuo's killing moves bombarded Yi Chen's body. The galaxy palm shattered Yi Chen's protective Jin Yuan, the extreme wind and water fist cut open a wound on Yi Chen's body, and the red star fist scorched Yi Chen's chest black, emitting bursts of smoke. However, with the isolation of the protective sword intent, these injuries could not be any lighter. They only looked a bit battered, which was undoubtedly 10 times better than Zhuo. What kind of battle is this? One has 4 times the battle power, and the other has a defense even stronger than Yang Ting's. That sword move is even more powerful than all of Zhuo's killing moves. They're too strong. Only today did I understand the meaning of, there's always someone better than you out there. In terms of attack, no one can compare to them. In terms of defense, no one can compare to them. There's simply 2 monsters among monsters. Everyone was already stunned. Zhuo's martial arts phantom let them know what battle power was, and Yi Chen's sword move and defense told them what the strongest attack and defense were. Chapter 1076. Ignoring the small injuries on his body, Yi Chen continued to attack Zhuo with merciless water and fire. The dark green light sphere was like a peerless sword artist. Once it struck the opponent, it would erupt with millions of sword chi. Zhuo had just expelled the destruction sword intent, and before he could recover, he was struck by the dark green light sphere and suffered countless sword chi cuts. If this goes on, I'll lose sooner or later. Although Zhuo was confident in his defense, and his late 6th-step spirit body could absorb a portion of the damage, the sword chi was too powerful. The destruction sword intent contained within was like maggots in one's bones, becoming more and more difficult to remove. If this continued, the destruction sword intent would accumulate more and more, and only defeat awaited him. Seems like I can only enter Berserk realm. Making up his mind, Zhuo's aura erupted. What? His battle strength can still increase. Look, Zhuo's aura is changing. What a frightening aura. On the battling platform, the aura on Zhuo's body instantly turned frightening. The originally pure Jin Yuan aura had now turned into a dark red ruthless aura. This aura was so frightening that it could cause people to hallucinate. It was as if countless demons were emerging from this aura, wanting to devour people. Not to mention contending against Zhuo, ordinary life and death kings wouldn't even be able to approach him. This frightening aura could make them fall into a nightmare. Along with the aura change, Zhuo's eyes turned blood red, shooting out a blood beam several thousand meters long. It's even more berserk than my killing intent fist technique. Xia Shaoshan creased his brows. Selfless Berserk Realm. Among the crowd, only Lu Wenxiu knew what was happening to Jiu. Selfless Berserk Realm was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was the ordinary stage, and the second stage had 2 paths, Selfless Heavenly Eye and Selfless Body. Selfless Berserk Realm was not the third stage of Selfless Realm, but a mutation of the second stage. In order to enter this realm, one had to suffer an extremely powerful stimulation and fall into the Selfless Berserk Realm. Yi Chen had once entered this realm, and now, he had 30 to 40% chance of doing so. However, Jiu had clearly reached the stage where he could use Berserk Realm. Jiu's eruption had undoubtedly caused the spectators to pant. They had not expected that Jiu would still have a trump card up his sleeve. The battle had progressed to this point, and it had already exceeded their imagination. They were completely unable to predict how the battle would develop. The strength of these 2 people far exceeded their level. Ha! Jiu roared, and the destructive sword intent attached to his body dissipated into nothingness. In the next moment, Jiu's figure flickered, and the 3 martial arts phantoms merged into his body, and then they transformed again. Yi Chen, take this. With bloodshot eyes, the 4 Jius attacked Yi Chen together. The energy has increased by several times. Yi Chen clearly sensed that the space-stopping power of the Sword Realm could no longer restrain the opponent's ace attack. Although the space-stopping power was powerful, it had its limits. Back when he had rushed through the dead end of Elysium, that 6th-level Life and Death Realm Demon King had easily broken through his space-stopping power. The reason was that the opponent's energy had already surpassed his space-stopping power. And now, Jiu's energy was also approaching this level. The combined ace attack was about to hit Yi Chen. Once hit, even if he had the Immortal Sword intent to protect his body, he would still be blasted into pieces. However, the opponent had a trump card, and so did Yi Chen. Instead of retreating, Yi Chen rushed forward. Is Yi Chen crazy? Everyone could not understand. Ling Fifen's eyes turned serious, and he was slightly confused. The Crimson Demon Slayer sword drew a mysterious trajectory in the void. As the trajectory was perfected, the void came to a stop inch by inch. At first, there was still chi energy flowing in all directions, but when the trajectory was completed, all the chi energy within 3,000 feet floated up, like dazzling auroras, like ribbons of light hanging in the air. Correspondingly, Jiu's 4 ace attacks also gradually stopped. Although they were not completely still, there was no difference. They looked like crawling tortoises. Meanwhile, the tip of the demon slaughtering sword in Yi Chen's hand released an extremely dazzling radiance. This radiance was so resplendent that everyone was attracted by it, and their souls seemed to be sucked into it. Without a sound, the 4 ace attacks were destroyed. A crimson sword light cut through the void and slashed at Jiu's chest. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere as Jiu was sent flying while spurting out blood. Space profound sword move. Jiu was inwardly shocked, but he soon realized that Yi Chen's sword realm contained the space-stopping power. This power clearly came from the space profound, and the space-stopping power of this move was several times stronger than the sword realm. The distance is too far. Yi Chen shook his head. The range of the moment of glory was only 3,000 zhang, which was close to 20 li, and the distance between him and Jiu was more than 20 li, so he was unable to affect the other party. In addition, the moment of glory had used up a lot of energy to defeat the 4 ace attacks, so only about 30% of the sword energy was left. If it was at a close distance, this sword could completely kill the other party. Whiz! As this thought flashed through his mind, Yi Chen quickly flashed out. With the help of the sword realm, his speed had reached his limit, and he was like a ray of sword light. I can't get too close to him. Jiu borrowed the sword energy that had struck his body and frantically retreated. For a while, Yi Chen was actually unable to close the distance between them. Suddenly, Yi Chen shook his hand and threw out the demon slaughtering sword. With a flash of thought, the demon-slaughtering sword transformed into 81 sword images, which then condensed into one and shot towards Audiobook. 9 returned to one sword art. With a clang, while retreating, Audiobook could only use 70 to 80% of his movement technique. The sword pierced through his protective true essence, and his body staggered, stopping for a moment. Clang! At this moment, a clear sword cry rang out. Audiobook only felt his vision blur, and then he lost consciousness. As expected of a heavenly king-grade sword. Yi Chen sized up the dragon spring sword in his hand. This was the first time he had used it against an enemy since it was completed. Needless to say, its power was several times stronger than the demon-slaughtering sword. More importantly, using this sword to perform sword arts was extremely smooth, and he almost couldn't feel the existence of any resistance. Not to mention Audiobook, even Yi Chen himself was very surprised. Can sword arts be this fast? The moment of glory could make space freeze, but for the spectators, they couldn't feel the power of space freezing. They only felt the scene suddenly stop, and the next moment, Audiobook was cut into pieces by the incomparably brilliant sword chi. Even the undying body couldn't reform his body, and when he reappeared, he was outside the battling platform. Audiobook lost. Yi Chen won. This was Yi Chen's 17th consecutive victory. Chapter 1077. I didn't expect King Peerless Audiobook to be unable to stop him. In my opinion, no one will be able to stop him in this divine trials, Yan Feihua said slowly as she sized up the somewhat despondent Audiobook. The Speed Wolf King next to him said, "Isn't there Ling Fifan?" Ling Fifan's true Azura slash had defeated Yang Ting with a single slash. Yan Feihua shook his head and said, "It's very difficult. Ling Fifan is known as the lifeless swordsman and his saber art is well-tempered, but he may not be able to defeat Audiobook, let alone Yi Chen. Moreover, Yi Chen's defense is the best among everyone here. Just this point alone is enough to make people despair. It's very unlikely that Ling Fifan can defeat him." As a swordsman, Yi Chen not only had a strong attack, but his defense was also unparalleled. It could be said to be a miracle. Not only Yan Feihua, but most people also thought that Yi Chen was invincible. The 17th round ended, and the 18th round began. In this round, Yi Chen's opponent was Soul Breaker Spear Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao immediately admitted defeat. Soon, Ling Fifan faced Audiobook. Audiobook had already recovered from the shadow of his defeat. He was not a person who took it to heart, but he did not believe that he had lost to Yi Chen. After going on stage, he became the unparalleled Audiobook again. Dragon subduing divine kick. True Shura slash. In the blink of an eye, the battle between the two of them had entered into a white-hot stage. Audiobook's dragon subduing divine kick was invincible and incomparably vigorous, possessing the might to subdue an enormous dragon, whereas Ling Fifan's true Azura slash had touched upon the third stage of the Inata state, possessing an unimaginable explosive force. The two killer moves collided together, causing the entire arena to shake incessantly. In the end, Audiobook cast out a martial art phantom, and the four Jios joined forces to attack Ling Fifan. True lifeless Azura slash. In addition to the true Azura chop, Ling Fifan also hit a terrifying killer move. With a flash of blade light, Audiobook's four killer moves were dispersed. "All right." Audiobook cheered loudly, his battle prowess soaring to the limit, instantly entering the Inata rampage state. After 5 minutes, Ling Fifan was defeated by Audiobook. For Yi Chen, the 19th round no longer holds any meaning. Everyone sighed with emotion. Ling Fifan had been defeated by Audiobook, and most likely, he would not be a match for Yi Chen. Martial artists had their own strengths and weaknesses, but that was only relative to a small number of people. Most people still spoke with their battle prowess. As expected, in the 19th round, Ling Fifan lost to Yi Chen again. With this, the trials of God came to an end. The first place was Yi Chen. In second place was King Peerless Jiu. The third was the lifeless swordsman, Leng Fifan. The fourth was tyrannical dragon Yang Ting. Fifth, Xia Shaoshan. The sixth was the green lightning king, Gu Qingxue. The seventh was the black destruction king, Zhou Jian. Eighth, seamless illusionist Li Yifeng. The ninth was azure dragon swordsman Xiao Shiyu. Lu Wenxiu and Yan Feihua tied for 10th place. As for the others, they were teleported out the moment the last battle of the 19th round ended. It's over. The ranking this time has been overturned. There are 2 newcomers in the top 10. One is number 1, and the other is number 5. Zhou Jian, the Black Destruction King, was pushed down from number 3 to number 7. Azure Dragon Swordsman Xiao Shiyu is so powerful, but he is only number 9. Lu Wenxiu and Yan Feihua are the most dangerous, and they are tied for 10th place. Yeah, Jiu is known to be unparalleled under the heavens. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's sword arts have surpassed that. 19 rounds, 19 wins. Not a single one of them could pose too much of a threat to him. Even Jiu could only cause him some insignificant injuries. The strongest attack and the strongest defense. He deserves the title of number 1. Outside the Golden Gate, everyone was talking about it. As the eliminated ones, they were already satisfied to be able to see such a peak battle. Many of them even had an epiphany and had made great progress in their martial arts. Young Master Yi is number 1. Lan Xian was a bit dazed. Although she was full of confidence in Yi Chen, in her opinion, Yi Chen being in the top 5 was already amazing. Defeating Jiu and becoming number 1 was something she had never expected. Sister, you really brought back an amazing person, Lan Xian murmured. Lan Xian murmured. If it wasn't for her sister Lan Xian, she definitely wouldn't have crossed paths with Yi Chen. Life was so wonderful. Every action had its own cause and effect. The ship of God arrived. The eliminated ones boarded the ship and were sent in the direction of God's planet. Congratulations, you are really amazing. You are the swordsman with the most potential I have ever seen. Jiu walked over and greeted Yi Chen. Same to you. Your martial path phantom is what surprised me. Martial path phantom was a divine technique. As long as one's combat ability was strong enough, the martial path phantom created would be strong enough. It would never be outdated. I obtained this martial art from a strange place. It has already been integrated into my blood. Jiu revealed some information about martial path phantom. Your momentary brilliance shocked me. The ability to stop space has already involved the rules of the universe. The power of the rules was extremely powerful. As the space profound progressed, the ability to stop space would inevitably become more frightening. Once Yi Chen's space profound reached completion, it was unknown what realm it would reach. Yi Chen was about to speak when the sky suddenly darkened. Unknowingly, a huge ship of God appeared in the sky. The ship of God is here. Jiu raised his head. I wonder what kind of place God's paradise is. Yi Chen had heard from Lan Xian that after passing the God trial field, one would have the qualifications to enter God's paradise. However, she didn't know what kind of place it was or what miraculous things were inside. Lu Wenxiu walked over and explained, God's paradise is a place that can raise one's strength. At the same time, it is also the place with the most geniuses. The God trial field is held once every 10 years. Every 10 years, about 10 geniuses will enter God's paradise. My brother is one of them. According to him, in God's paradise, one who is over 500 years old or whose cultivation base has reached the 7th layer can no longer stay. Therefore, in the past 500 years, there should be about 500 people in God's paradise. But, according to my brother, there are only 300 now. Can't one leave God's paradise without being over 500 years old or at the 7th layer? Yi Chen asked. Lu Wenxiu said, that's not the case. Apart from the first time, one has to pay a certain amount of Shinbi to enter and leave God's paradise. Shinbi is the currency of God's paradise, and is indispensable. Shinbi. Yi Chen currently had 29 Shinbi. Being first in the running competition gave him 10 Shinbi, and winning one battle gave him 1 Shinbi. After 19 rounds, Yi Chen had 19 Shinbi, making it 29 Shinbi in total. At this moment, Audiobook said solemnly, "Here, we might be at the top. But, in God's paradise, we might be at the bottom. I've long been looking forward to God's paradise, but I don't know the real situation inside." As he spoke, Audiobook's solemn eyes burned with an intense fighting spirit. My brother said that although God's paradise can raise one's strength, it is also very cruel. Slowly letting out a breath, Wuxia said. A flight of stairs extended from the ship of God, and the 11 of them walked up. Soon, the ship of God took off, flying toward an unknown place. Chapter 1078. On the deck of the boat of God, the 11 of them were talking about the paradise of God. As far as I know, the paradise of God has an Upanishad tower. Aside from time and space, it has every kind of ultimacy. As long as you pay a certain amount of Shinbi, you can enter the Upanishad tower to study. Inside, almost every genius has completed 4 or 5 ultimacies. The speaker was Yan Feihua. The Upanishad tower requires Shinbi, but there are other places where you can get Shinbi, such as the God of War Pagoda, the Survival Pagoda, and the Hunting Pagoda. In short, Shinbi is very useful in the paradise of God. With Shinbi, your strength can increase by leaps and bounds. Without Shinbi, you can't even take a step forward, and you'll soon be surpassed by others. Green Lightning King Gu Qingxue also said. The paradise of God is good, but once you go there, you'll know that there are always people better than you. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll be taught a lesson the first time we enter the paradise of God. This lesson isn't an insult, but a lesson to let us know that we're just an ordinary member of the paradise of God. There's nothing to be proud of. Zhou Jian glanced at Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled faintly. The other party was probably telling him that even though he was first in the divine trial field, he was only first among them. In the paradise of God, there was no lack of geniuses. Moreover, those geniuses cultivated 10 times more than them. Not long after, the ship of God stopped. Below them was a dreamlike paradise. The paradise was boundless, and there were misty clouds above it. The entire paradise was faintly discernible, like a mirage. It could be seen, but it could not be touched. It was very mysterious. When the stairs passed through the clouds, rippling patterns appeared. It wasn't hard to imagine that without the stairs, even if they could see the paradise, they wouldn't be able to enter it. Let's go down. Audiobook was the first to go down. The long stairs extended all the way to the ground. As they walked down, the 11 of them looked around. What a majestic tower. That must be the God of War Pagoda. There are people fighting over there. They seem to be holding sticks. Are they hitting balls with sticks? That's a thunderbolt ball. It can train attack speed, reaction speed, and strength techniques. To the 11 of them, everything in the paradise of God was so novel. Their hearts, which were as calm as still water, began to ripple. Buzz. The moment the 11 of them landed, a figure of light surrounded by a halo appeared in front of them. Hello, I am the God of the paradise of God, the manager of this place. Welcome to the paradise of God. Gods. Everyone was shocked. Although godly spirits were not real gods, they had the word God in their names, so they were certainly not ordinary. They wondered whether a godly spirit or a ninth-layer life and death realm warrior would be stronger. From the moment you stepped into the paradise of God, you became a member of the paradise of God. The trial talisman is your paradise badge. It has many uses, as you will find out in the future. In the paradise of gods, there are no mandatory rules. Everything is voluntary. However, once you reach the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda or the 4th level of the Survival Tower, you must enter the Hunting Pagoda once every 3 months. Inside the Hunting Pagoda, you will encounter other members of the Paradise of True Gods. Your mission is to hunt them. Of course, it is also very likely that you will be hunted by them. For every enemy you hunt and obtain their Paradise Badge, you will obtain a certain amount of Shinbi. The higher the level of their badge, the more Shinbi you will obtain. The figure of light who claimed to be a god explained. Hunting Tower. Other members of the Paradise of True Gods. There should be different levels in there, right? Gu Qingxue asked. The figure of light nodded. Indeed, the Hunting Pagoda has 6 floors, and every 2 floors have a different level. The first and second floors are primary, the third and fourth floors are intermediate, and the fifth and sixth floors are advanced. Among them, the first, third, and fifth floors are for individual hunting, while the second, fourth, and sixth floors are for team hunting. Accordingly, the badges are divided into 3 levels: primary, intermediate, and advanced. Once you reach the 5th floor or the 4th floor of the Survival Tower, your badges will be upgraded to primary badges. Once you reach the 7th floor or the 6th floor of the Survival Tower, your badges will be upgraded to intermediate badges. Once you reach the 9th floor or the 8th floor of the Survival Tower, your badges will be upgraded to the highest level. Different badges have different treatments in the Paradise of Gods. For example, entering the Upanishad Tower costs 10 Shinbi per day for a normal badge, 9 for a primary badge, 7 for an intermediate badge, and 5 for an advanced badge. Are the only ways to earn Shinbi by entering the God of War Pagoda, the Survival Tower, and the Hunting Pagoda? The one who asked the question was Xiao Shiyu. That's right. Apart from these 3 towers, there are no other ways to obtain Shinbi, and Shinbi can't be transferred between people. It's just a number, not a physical object. In the Paradise of Gods, without Shinbi, it's hard to move even an inch. With Shinbi, you can enter the Upanishad Tower to comprehend the profound you want to comprehend. You can also enter the Tower of Time and adjust the time ratio to 1 to 10, or 1 to 100. After staying here for a few years, you'll realize that your progress here is 10 times or even 100 times faster than outside. Therefore, you must seize every opportunity to earn Shinbi. Following the light figure's explanation, everyone had a new understanding of the importance of Shinbi. In short, Shinbi was a necessity to ensure their progress. An ordinary Paradise of Gods badge would cost 10 Shinbi per day to enter the Upanishad Tower, which meant 300 Shinbi per month. This wasn't a small number. Among them, the one with the most Shinbi was Yi Chen, who only had 29 Shinbi. Ah Jiu had 28 Shinbi. The others either had more than 20 or a dozen Shinbi. The one with the least Shinbi didn't even have a single Shinbi. Therefore, even Yi Chen could only stay in the Upanishad Tower for 2 days. The Tower of Time was even more magical. It could adjust the time ratio to 1 to 10, so 1 day inside was 10 days. If it was adjusted to 1 to 100, then 1 day inside was 100 days. If one stayed long enough, such as 1 month or 3 months, then it would be extremely terrifying. They were all top geniuses, so a few years was enough for them to make rapid progress. With the Tower of Time, they could treat a few years as dozens or even hundreds of years. However, it wasn't hard to imagine that such a magical Tower of Time would require a lot of Shinbi. The current amount of Shinbi they had wasn't enough. Worthy of the Paradise of Gods. Compared to it, the desolate star pales in comparison. Yi Chen sighed inwardly. Alright, there aren't many rules in the Paradise of Gods. Now, you can choose your own residence. Currently, there are only 380 people in the Paradise of Gods, so there are more than 100 empty residences. You can choose according to your preferences. However, as the manager of this place, I have to warn you that you are still very weak. Don't have any conflicts with the senior members of the Paradise of Gods, at least for the time being. I wish you all a pleasant life. After saying this, the light figure turned into specks of light and disappeared. Chapter 1079. The Paradise of God's residence was located in a mountain range. This mountain range had all kinds of environments, such as a small bridge, a red maple forest, a 3,000-foot waterfall, a boundless lake, and a mountain peak. Anyone could find their favorite living environment here. Yi Chen chose a bamboo house next to a small bridge. The bridge was an ancient stone bridge, and the water was a meandering river. Some aquatic plants were growing sparsely on the surface of the river, and a few fish were foraging under the plants. On the south side of the river was a picturesque bamboo house. The bamboo house was emerald green and emitted a sweet fragrance. Behind the bamboo house were tall and strong green bamboos. At first glance, one couldn't see into the depths of the bamboo forest. Clang! Yi Chen unsheathed the dragon spring sword and slashed a sword mark on the hill to the north of the river. The sword mark was 3 zhang deep, and a terrifying sword intent spread out, lingering for a long time. It was a long journey from the mountain range to the center of the Paradise of God. Although the gravity in the Paradise of God was not as strong as that in the Divine Star, it was still 1/10 as strong. It was very difficult to fly there. There was a floating track in the center of the mountain range. Every day, 3 chariots of God would pass by this track, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. The chariots of God were like sightseeing trains. There were 500 seats on them, no more, no less. They moved very fast, and didn't need much power. Once the time was up, the chariots of God would start automatically. Yi Chen and the others got on the chariots of God at noon. Soon, the 11 of them arrived at the gate of the center of the Paradise of God. Are these the newcomers? There are 11 of them. There was a group of people standing at the gate. Even the weakest among them had a horrifying aura, as if they were wild beasts. Right then, they were looking at Yi Chen and the others as if they were little kids. I'm afraid this gate is not easy to enter. Lu Wenxiu said. They're just a group of people at the bottom. Ah Jiu's expression didn't change. The 11 of them stopped at the gate. Congratulations on coming to the Paradise of God. The one who spoke was a young man with a tall and sturdy body, as tall as Yang Tingyu. What's the matter? Xiao Shiyu said coldly. According to the rules of the Paradise of Gods, newcomers have to accept the seniors' challenge. We were unlucky and drew the red lot. There was an unwritten rule in the Paradise of God. Newcomers had to accept challenges from their seniors. This wasn't to bully newcomers, but rather to let newcomers know that they were no longer the all-powerful geniuses here. They were just normal people, and everything that happened outside had nothing to do with them. Then let's begin. Through various channels, everyone knew that there was such an unwritten rule in the Paradise of Gods, so they were not surprised. The one who spoke was Zhou Jian. The burly young man smiled. It was obvious that the other side knew about this rule and was already mentally prepared for it. However, knowing was one thing, but not many of them were actually aware of it. Everyone thought that they were peerless geniuses, and that they might be able to defeat the seniors from the Paradise of Gods. This was the purpose of the rule. It was to use absolute power to crush their arrogance and wake them up. Follow us. The burly young man and the others led the way. Soon, everyone arrived at a battle arena that looked like a Roman Colosseum. Turning around, the burly young man said, "Rules are dead, but people are alive. We can't work for nothing. How about this, the loser will give the winner 100,000 yuan stones." Of course, don't get me wrong, we haven't fallen to the level of scamming newcomers for yuan stones. You can give it or not, it's all up to you. I will give it to you. Zhou Jian walked onto the battle arena. Alright, I will be your opponent. A figure flew into the battle arena. It was a skinny young man. I am Wan Donglei. The skinny young man introduced himself. Zhou Jian. Zhou Jian made the first move. He entered the selfless body state right away and performed a killer move, the meteor fist. Countless fist shadows were thrown at his opponent. Too slow. Wan Donglei turned into a shadow and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was right in front of Zhou Jian and kicked him in the chest. Puff. Blood spurted out of Zhou Jian's mouth as he was sent flying. How is this possible? Including Yi Chen, everyone was shocked. His opponent did not use his absolute battling power to blow Zhou Jian away. Instead, he had seen through the flaws of Zhou Jian's meteor exploding fist art, and then appeared in front of Zhou Jian at a shocking speed. Be it speed, power, or eyesight, they are all a couple of times better than Zhou Jian. Yi Chen thought to himself. After being kicked by Wan Donglei, Zhou Jian struggled to get up and threw out another punch. This time, it was the meteor fist. Do you think there's still a need to fight? Wan Donglei's kick had shattered the fist power of the meteor fist and said lightly. Here. Zhou Jian's face turned green. He took out 10 boxes of yuan stones from his storage ring and threw them on the ground. Then, he turned around and walked to the audience seating. I am Liao Qing. Who wants to challenge me? Another person appeared. His eyes scanned through Yi Chen and the rest. I will challenge you. Xiao Shiyu got off the stage. A sword artist. Not bad, sword artists have better eyesight than warriors at the same level. Liao Qing nodded slightly, looking relaxed. Take this. Taking out the Azure Dragon sword, Xiao Shiyu threw out a sword attack toward her opponent. It was just a normal sword attack. When one was not clear about the opponent's actual strength, using a killing attack would result in the same situation as Zhou Jian. Ding! Liao Qing took out his dagger and blocked Xiao Shiyu's sword attack. Swoosh! At the same time, Liao Qing also held a dagger in his left hand and threw it out like lightning. Xiao Shiyu could not react in time, and a piece of flesh was cut off from his face. Ding! Dang! Subsequently, Liao Qing attacked Xiao Shiyu from both sides with his daggers, and his attacks were like a torrential storm. Xiao Shiyu only persisted for 5 or 6 rounds before her throat was slit by Liao Qing's dagger, causing blood to splatter out. Thank you for letting me win. Liao Qing stopped attacking. Xiao Shiyu looked at his opponent in a daze. Then, he took out 10 boxes of yuan stones and put them on the ground. After Zhou Jian and Xiao Shiyu, Lu Wenxiu, Yan Feihua, Li Yifeng, Gu Qingxue, Xia Xiaoshan, and Yang Ting were defeated one after another. Finally, only Yi Chen, Jiu, and Leng Fifan had not fought yet. Let me. Leng Fifan was the first to fight. I'm Yang Zhan. Coincidentally, I'm also a saber user. Yang Zhan appeared in front of Leng Fifan with a long saber on his back. This Leng Fifan doesn't look like an ordinary person. All of us here have the power of the 3rd level of the God of War Pagoda. It's already good enough that the newcomers can make it to the 2nd level. There were 10 levels in the God of War Pagoda, representing 10 different levels of combat power. Most of the newcomers had the power of the 1st level. Of course, it wouldn't take long for them to make it to the 2nd level, and it was already good enough that they had the power of the 2nd level. Among Zhou Jian's group of 8, Yan Feihua, Lu Wenxiu, Xiao Shiyu, Li Yifeng, Gu Qingxue, and Zhou Jian had the power of the 1st level, while Xia Xiaoshan and Yang Ting had the power of the 2nd level. Clang, 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 sparks flew as the 2 sabers clashed. Yang Zhan was surprised to find that he couldn't take down his opponent in a short time. There were a few times when he thought he had seen through his opponent's flaws, but his opponent had purposely exposed them. This is more interesting. A smile appeared on Yang Zhan's face, and his saber attacks became fiercer and more cunning. The saber is the overlord. Even if it's a dead end, I will still fight for a way out. Ling Fifan was obviously at a disadvantage, but judging from his aura, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Instead, he was suppressing his opponent. If not for his aura, Ling Fifan would have been defeated long ago. A well-trained saber user. His achievements in the future will be immeasurable. The burly young man was a little envious. Strength is strength. Lose. Yang Zhan sent Ling Fifan's blade of time flying with one slash and severed his head. But a shocking scene happened. Ling Fifan, who had lost his head and the blade of time, slashed at Yang Zhan with an illusory saber in his hands. Pfft. Both of Yang Zhan's arms were severed at the elbows. It was a draw. Impressive. He has the power of the third level of the God of War Pagoda as soon as he came in, and it was a draw with Yang Zhan. Yes, although Yang Zhan was a little careless, his power is enough to enter the third level of the God of War Pagoda. There were strong and weak people on the third floor. The strong ones were just a step away from entering the fourth floor, while the weak ones would probably fail the moment they entered the third floor. Me, Lu Hu, who will go first? The burly young man smiled and said to Audiobook and Yi Chen. I'll go first. Audiobook jumped into the arena. Be careful. Although I didn't enter the fourth level, I'm only one step away, Lu Hu reminded him. Don't worry, I won't be careless. Audiobook knew that these people were the weakest in the paradise of gods, but it didn't mean he could ignore them. Ling Fifan was only a little weaker than him, but he was still at a disadvantage. It was enough to prove these people's power. If Yang Zhan and Ling Fifan's battle was already shocking enough, then Audiobook and Lu Hu's battle was even more shocking. Lu Hu was the strongest among them, and he was only one step away from the fourth level of the God of War Pagoda, but Audiobook could fight Lu Hu to a draw. He's really not easy to deal with. Lu Hu frowned slightly. It wasn't that his opponent didn't have any flaws, but he couldn't take advantage of them because there were 4 of them. If he fought against one of them, he would be attacked by the other 3. Unless he could defeat all 4 of them at once, but that was impossible. With his strength, he couldn't do that. Looks like I have to use this move. Lu Hu's body flashed. Every time he flashed, a dozen more Lu Hu would appear. After dozens of flashes, there were hundreds of Lu Hus, and every one of them was vivid and lifelike. Profound meaning of shadow. No, it's the profound meaning of Yin, which is even more profound than the profound meaning of shadow. Yi Chen immediately saw through the meaning of Lu Hu's move. The profound meaning of Yin included the profound meaning of shadow. There was Yin and Yang in the universe, and so did humans. These Lu Hu could be said to be real to a certain extent. They were like the other side of Lu Hu, so it was impossible to tell which was real and which was fake with just eyesight. Unless one had a special talent or had also cultivated the profound meaning of Yin. Of course, there must be other ways to tell. Nothing was absolute in this world. It could be seen that Lu Hu's profound meaning of Yin had not been perfected. There were some flaws, but there were too many of them. Trying to find the real one was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Audiobook only lasted for a while before he was defeated. Chapter 1080. This Audiobook is amazing. No wonder he's called King Peerless. They had all heard of Audiobook's name, and Audiobook and the others also knew about them. For example, Lu Hu was from the White Tiger Starfield's Tiger Soul planet. He was ranked 8th on the Heavenly King list, but it was obvious that he hadn't improved as much as Audiobook in the past decade. 10 years ago, Audiobook hadn't become famous yet, so he naturally wouldn't be Lu Hu's match. 10 years later, Audiobook was only slightly weaker than Lu Hu. But from another perspective, those at the bottom of the paradise of gods weren't doing so well. Because they lacked divine coins, their improvement wasn't much faster than those outside. Unless they could reach the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda or the 4th level of the Survival Tower, they wouldn't be able to get more divine coins. I'm so jealous of you. You're already at the peak of the 3rd level of the God of War Pagoda. It won't be long before you can reach the 4th or even the 5th level. As for me, I'll probably need another 10 years to reach the 5th level. Do you know? In the past 10 years, except for the first time, I've never left the paradise of gods. It's not that I don't want to go back, but I don't have enough divine coins to pay for it. Lu Hu sighed. Then I'll just make it to the 5th level, Audiobook said. Lu Hu was stunned for a moment, and then whispered to himself, "You're right." They didn't know when, but they had developed a dependence on Shinbi. Without Shinbi, they felt like they had lost their will to fight. Little did they know that the reason they were able to enter the paradise of gods wasn't because of Shinbi, but because of their ambition. "Alright, I've lost to you. But given your strength, I'm afraid you're no match for him." Audiobook threw down 10 boxes of yuan stones and walked back to the audience. No match for him? Lu Hu looked at Yi Chen in confusion. They only had 10 people on their side, while Audiobook had 11. Therefore, he had to fight twice. But Audiobook's words had alarmed him. After Audiobook had lost to Lu Hu, Yi Chen had become everyone's focus. Yi Chen's amazing sword skills had won over Audiobook and the others. Now it was their turn. Step by step, Yi Chen walked to the arena and unsheathed the dragon spring sword. "Take this." Chi. A wisp of blood danced in the air as a thin sword mark appeared on Lu Hu's cheek. As for himself, he explosively retreated. If he hadn't dodged fast enough, this sword might have pierced through his forehead. What a fast sword! Not only were Lu Hu and the others shocked, but Audiobook, Ling Fifan, Ong Ting, and the others were also shocked. Little did they know that Yi Chen had used the profound truths of speed in this attack, and the sword in his hand had become the Heavenly King stage treasure sword, the Dragon Spring Sword. With the two combined, his sword speed had reached a terrifying level. What kind of freak is this? Lu Hu couldn't be more astonished. In the 10 years he had spent in the paradise of gods, due to the limited amount of Shinbi, he had only entered the Upanishad Tower a few times. However, he had often played Thunderball with others. Thunderball was a very strange cultivation method. By hitting the ball quickly, it could train one's reaction speed, attack speed, and force exertion skills. Compared to 10 years ago, Lu Hu's inner qualities had improved a lot. His ability to see through flaws was also extraordinary. Wan Dong Lei Liaoqing had easily defeated Zhou Jian and Xiao Shiyu. Lu Hu was even stronger than the previous two. However, that sword attack of Yi Chen's was terrifying in both speed and trajectory. He didn't even have time to react, let alone block it. Without any hesitation, Lu Hu used the shadow doppelgangers that had defeated Audiobook. The shadow doppelgangers had the profound truths of Yin. Not only did they have the same aura as the real body, but they also couldn't be underestimated. Each doppelganger had 20% of the real body's power. Several hundred shadow doppelgangers stood between Yi Chen and Lu Hu, giving Lu Hu time to counterattack. Momentary glory. Facing hundreds of shadow doppelgangers, Yi Chen only used one sword attack. This sword attack froze the space, and all the shadow doppelgangers froze. The Zhen Yuan contained in their bodies wasn't enough to resist the power of momentary glory. Although Lu Hu himself was extremely powerful, he felt like he was stuck in a swamp. Every move he made was extremely difficult. Passing through hundreds of shadow doppelgangers, Yi Chen suddenly appeared 10 meters in front of Lu Hu. Too scary. Is he still a newbie? Lu Hu's Zhen Yuan burst out, turning into a fierce tiger phantom. This tiger phantom shook its head and tail, looking extremely fierce. Under the impact of the tiger phantom, the power of momentary glory weakened a lot. Lu Hu took this opportunity to counter Yi Chen's momentary glory with a punch. Fierce tiger fist art. Clang! Sparks exploded as Yi Chen's dragon spring sword stabbed into Lu Hu's fist. The sword's blade bent, but the bones in Lu Hu's right arm were also broken inch by inch. Blood splashed out. The dragon spring sword straightened, and Yi Chen used the momentum to jump into the sky, sweeping down with his sword. Puchi. Lu Hu's head flew high into the sky. Yi Chen won. Among all the young sword artists in history, he is at least in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. Yan Feihua sighed. The universe had existed for countless years, and nobody knew how many years Yi Chen had been in the top 10. One could imagine how high Yan Feihua's evaluation of Yi Chen was, and how shocked she was. God of War Pagoda's 4th floor strength. Lu Hu, who had reattached his head with his undying body, looked at Yi Chen, his eyes filled with disbelief. He had just entered the God of Paradise, and he already had the strength of God of War Pagoda's 4th floor. Thank you for letting me win. Putting away the dragon spring sword, Yi Chen cupped his fists. Here are your 100,000 yuan stones. Lu Hu took out 10 boxes of yuan stones and put them on the ground. Yi Chen didn't refuse and put them away. After a while, he was preparing to break through to the 4th sky of life and death realm. At that time, he would need a lot of yuan stones, so it was better to be prepared. What a monster! Luckily, my opponent is not him. Otherwise, I would have been so embarrassed. Wan Dong, Lei Liaoqing, and the rest were speechless. Even Lu Hu, the strongest among them, had lost. They would be trash if they went up. They were all newbies, but why was the gap between them so big? Only Ling Fifan and Audiobook were slightly more eye-catching. Lu Hu, why are you so useless? You lost to a newbie. A voice was heard. Everyone looked over and saw a few figures at the entrance of the arena. The one who spoke was a strong young man. Tai He. I lost to him wholeheartedly. How am I useless? Lu Hu said with a frown. A loss is a loss. No need to find excuses. The bulky young man walked down step by step, his eyes landing on Yi Chen. Lu Hu didn't want to argue with him, so he said to Yi Chen, be careful, Tai He has already reached the 4th floor. Yi Chen nodded and looked at Tai He. Please. Since he had appeared, he must have bad intentions. Oh, you took the initiative to challenge me. Alright, I'll give you a chance. Tai He had originally planned to teach Yi Chen a lesson, lest he broke the rules. However, he didn't expect Yi Chen to take the initiative to challenge him. Tai He, don't be careless. The others said to Tai He. I know what I'm doing. Tai He naturally didn't dare to be careless. Since Yi Chen could defeat Lu Hu, he most likely had the power of the 4th floor. Although there were strong and weak people on the 4th floor, he couldn't be careless. Make your move. Tai He's weapon was a crescent halberd. It was more than 3 meters long and looked very sharp. Just as he finished his sentence, Yi Chen's attack had arrived. It was still the fast profound. That moment of glory could only release its power within 3,000 meters. Beyond that, the effect would be almost negligible. It was also the reason why he had approached Lu Hu from the beginning, and it was the same now. Ding! Tai He's battle power was indeed not something Lu Hu could compare with. He lifted the crescent halberd slightly and blocked Yi Chen's sharp sword. Pretty fast. His feet exerted force, Tai He used the sword's power to back off. He realized that it was better to keep some distance from Yi Chen. Otherwise, his crescent halberd wouldn't be able to unleash its power at all. However, in the next moment, he realized that his speed had slowed down. Yi Chen's second sword attack came right after. This sword attack made the space freeze. It was the profound meaning of space. No wonder Lu Hu lost. Tai He didn't see the battle between Yi Chen and Lu Hu. He only came in after their battle ended. But, don't underestimate me. Anatar realm. Tai He's Anatar realm was the same as Ling Fifan's. He had already touched the 3rd level. Moreover, he was at the peak of the 5th sky of life and death realm, which was 1 sky higher than Ling Fifan. As Taihe's battle power went all out, a majestic power burst out. The space freeze power was immediately repelled. Cold moon cutting the sky. After repelling the space freeze power, Taihe attacked Yi Chen with his halberd. This was his ace attack. A green crescent moon appeared in the void, attacking rapidly. Boom! The sword and the halberd clashed, and Yi Chen backed out dozens of miles. A faint green light lingered around his body, looking extremely sharp. Fortunately, his protective sword intent was powerful enough, so he didn't get hurt at all. Taihe, Lu Hu had said earlier that the loser would have to give the winner 100,000 yuan stones. I wonder if you agree or not. If the opponent didn't agree, Yi Chen didn't plan to continue the battle. He would just admit defeat. Don't tell me you think I will lose to you. Taihe opened his eyes wide. Nothing is absolute in this world. How would you know if you don't try? Yi Chen laughed. Alright, 100,000 yuan stones is nothing in my eyes. I would like to see how you can beat me. Taihe was angered by Yi Chen, and his aura increased again. In front of him, Yi Chen took a deep breath. 3 flowers appeared on his head, 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. 3-flower Dao. It was the 3-flower Dao that Yuan Emperor had taught to Yi Chen. After several years of cultivation, Yi Chen had already cultivated the 3-flower Dao to the same level as Yuan Emperor. Once he used it, his spirit, qi, and spirit would multiply, and his battle power would multiply as well. The same momentary glory was performed by Yi Chen again. Not good. The space freeze power has doubled. Taihe felt like he was carrying a huge ancient mountain on his back. Every movement he made was extremely strenuous. Even his bones were groaning, and the Jin Yuan circulation in his body had slowed down. Puff! Yi Chen's sword was ruthless as it pierced through Taihe's forehead. Chapter 1081. Everyone stared at Yi Chen, including those who came with Taihe. In their eyes, Yi Chen was like the center of the world, giving them immense pressure. And the dragon spring sword in his hand was like the Grim Reaper's weapon. It was an inanimate object, but it made their hearts tremble. I lost. The sword wound on his forehead slowly healed. Taihe looked at Yi Chen in shock. If that sword attack had been fully unleashed, even if he did not die, he would have been severely injured. If it came again, he would definitely die. Of course, this was the paradise of gods. Even if he died, he could be revived. He was not worried about that. Thank you. Yi Chen cupped his fists. A loss is a loss. Here are 100,000 yuan stones. Taihe threw down 10 boxes of yuan stones. Then, he said, with your talent, I'm afraid you will soon reach the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda and qualify to enter the hunting tower. By then, there will be many teams inviting you to join. Let me remind you, when choosing a team, you must be careful. If you are not careful, you will die. My good friend died in the hunting battlefield because of his carelessness in choosing a team. His team was completely annihilated. The Paradise of Gods originally had 500 people, but now there are only 380 people. Just know how dangerous it is. With that, Taihe and his friends left. Thank you for the reminder. Yi Chen glanced at his back as he left. What Taihe said is right. We must be extremely cautious in choosing a team. In the battlefield of hunting, everyone is both a hunter and a prey. The stronger the team we choose, the more reasonable the composition of the members, the greater the chance of survival. In these 10 years, I have also lost a few friends in the battlefield of hunting. Lu Hu sighed. I will think about it. Not to mention that Yi Chen did not have the power to reach the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda. Even if he did, he would not do it. He wanted to use Shinbi to increase his power first, and then see if he could reach the 4th level of the life and death realm in a short period of time. When everything was ready, he would try to reach the 5th level and qualify to enter the hunting tower. Then we will leave first. Lu Hu and the others bid farewell. In the center of the paradise of gods, there were 2 majestic towers. One was the God of War Pagoda, and the other was the Survival Pagoda. The God of War Pagoda was 10,000 meters tall, and each level was 1,000 meters tall. Of course, this was only from the outside. There was definitely something more to it. How unlucky. I didn't pass through the 4th level again. My Yin-Yang True Dragon energy has already been cultivated to the Great Success level. Logically speaking, I should be able to pass through it. I was just a little bit away last time. 2 young men walked out from the entrance of the 1st level of the God of War Pagoda. Me too. At the critical moment, the opponent's strength suddenly erupted. There's no way to block it. The other young man was also quite helpless. These 11 people seem to be newcomers. I don't recognize them. They must be here to challenge the God of War Pagoda. I wonder which level they can reach. I reckon that most of them are on the 1st level. There won't be more than 3 on the 2nd level. This has always been the case. The 2 of them had originally planned to leave, but after some thought, they decided to stay. They wanted to see how strong this batch of newcomers were. Anyway, challenging the God of War Pagoda would not take much time, especially for newcomers. Good luck. Yi Chen was the first to enter the God of War Pagoda's entrance. Good luck, everyone. The other 10 also entered the God of War Pagoda. This was a fiery land of lava. Scarlet flames erupted everywhere, and the sky was dark red. From time to time, purplish-red lightning danced in the sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Standing in the air, Yi Chen scanned the area, searching for his opponent. Rumble. Abruptly, the ground beneath Yi Chen split open. A scarlet hand the size of a mountain grabbed at Yi Chen, accompanied by a towering wave of fire. Lava Giant. Yi Chen immediately knew what kind of creature his opponent was. The lava giant was a natural life form with both fire and earth attributes. It was born with boundless strength and had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. Even Yi Chen would vomit blood if he was grabbed by the lava giant. Of course, it was fine as long as he was not grabbed. The lava giant's only weakness was the lava heart in its chest. It was a relatively fragile crystal. As long as one had the annihilation crystal, they would be able to kill the lava giant. However, the lava giant was not only extremely huge, but its defense was also very high. Ordinary monarchs could only break the surface of the lava at most. It was extremely difficult to kill it. Unfortunately, its opponent was Yi Chen. Facing this scorching lava hand, Yi Chen unsheathed his dragon spring sword and slashed down. The sword light blurred and vibrated countless times in an instant. Without a sound, the lava hand and the lava arm were split into 2. Then, the lava land was also split, revealing the lava giant's corpse. Its lava heart had already been destroyed by Yi Chen's sword light. You have passed the 1st level. Reward, 10 Shinbi. A voice came down from the sky. Buzz. The paradise badge flashed, and a light screen appeared in front of Yi Chen. The light screen showed that he had 39 Shinbi, 10 Shinbi for the 1st level. Not bad. Many a little makes a mickle. The 1st level already had 10 Shinbi. The 2nd level would probably not be any less. After all, there were only 10 levels in the entire God of War Pagoda. 5 people walked out from the entrance of the 1st level of the God of War Pagoda. They were Yan Feihua, Lu Wenxiu, Xiao Shiyu, Li Yifeng, and Gu Qingxue. Lu Wenxiu shook her head and sighed. The lava giant's defense is too high. We can't even attack its lava heart. I didn't expect the 1st level to be so difficult. I thought we could make it to the 2nd level. Yan Feihua was a little disappointed. We are the weaklings here, so we have to work even harder. Yan Feihua was not the only one who was disappointed. Xiao Xiyu and the rest were also very disappointed. They had just arrived at the paradise of gods, but they had already lost to Lu Hu and the rest. Now, they could not even pass the first level of the God of War Pagoda. Although they did not seem to care about fame, as long as they were human, they would have weaknesses. It was just that they did not have the opportunity to expose these weaknesses usually. Let's keep it up. I wonder how many levels they can reach. Li Yifeng was very calm. As an illusionist, combat was not their strength. It was normal that they could not pass the first level. Zhou Jian's attack is very strong. He should be able to reach the second level. Xia Shaoshan and Yang Ting should be able to reach it too. Gu Qingxue speculated. 5 failed the first level, and the other 5 will most likely enter the second level. The quality of this batch of newcomers is not bad. The ratio is higher than usual. The 2 young people who came out earlier discussed in low voices. After a while, Zhou Jian came out. Zhou Jian, which level? Lu Wenxiu asked. The second level. Congratulations. I was just lucky. Zhou Jian was expressionless. The first level focused on attack, so although he was not as strong as Gu Qingxue, he could pass the first level and reach the second level. Soon, Xia Shaoshan and Yang Ting also came out. Like Zhou Jian, both of them failed on the second level, but they lasted longer than Zhou Jian. No way. There are 3 more who can reach the third level. After half a cup of tea's time, the 2 young men standing not far away looked at each other. After a while, Leng Fifan came out. Followed by Ah Jiu. As everyone had expected, the 2 of them reached the third level. How much is the reward for the second level? Xia Shaoshan asked. Reaching the third level did not mean that they had passed the third level. It only meant that they had passed the second level. 30, Leng Fifan replied. That's a lot. The first level only gave 10, and the second level gave 30. Xia Shaoshan pouted. Don't be greedy. We didn't get a single Shenbi. Looks like we can only pin our hopes on the survival tower. Let's hope we can pass the first level. Yan Feihua gritted her teeth. I advise you to be more pessimistic. The survival tower is even harder than the God of War tower. Only by reaching the 5th level can you upgrade your paradise badge to a beginner badge. But as long as you reach the 4th level, you will be able to upgrade it. You should know the reason. One of the 2 young people could not help but say. How hard is the first level of the survival tower? Lu Wenxiu frowned. It is almost the same as the second level, but the reward is much higher. The first level has 30 Shenbi, and the second level has 60 Shenbi. Through the conversation, everyone came to know these 2's names. One was Lin Chun, and the other was Cui Yi. The 2 had been in the God Paradise for 20 years, but they were still stuck in the 4th floor of the tower. The cultivation of martial artists would become more and more difficult the further one went. One would not be able to advance by leaps and bounds like before. Otherwise, life and death kings would have a lifespan of 100,000 years, and they would be invincible in 100 or 200 years. After chatting for a while, Lin Chun suddenly said, Oh right, what is the name of your partner who has not come out yet? Yi Chen. Lu Wenxiu said. Yi Chen. What a good name. I believe it won't be long before he becomes the most popular person in the God Paradise. He will be the target of all the beginner teams. You guys have to remind him to be careful when choosing teams. Cui Yi said. Yeah. Lu Wenxiu and the rest nodded. They realized that the members of the God Paradise were not bad. Although Lu Hu and the rest had taught them a lesson, it was the rule, and they did not humiliate them. Tai He, who came later, was also not that hateful. He even said the same words as Cui Yi. Of course, there were all kinds of birds in a big forest. They would probably run into some friendly ones. Another 10 minutes passed, and Yi Chen came out. Yi Chen, you reached the 4th level. Lu Wenxiu was a bit uncertain. Yeah, the 4th level was very hard. I can't believe it was a 6th layer life and death realm demon king. There were 9 layers of life and death realm, and there was a gap between the 6th and 7th layers. At present, he could only contend with ordinary 6th layer life and death realm demon kings. But, if he encountered a powerful one, he would not be able to fight. After all, cultivation was one thing, and battle power was another. The latter included the former, and the former was only a part of the latter. Yi Chen, I am Lin Chun, and this is my friend Cui Yi. Nice to meet you. A super newbie like Yi Chen, who would not want to get to know him. Perhaps they would have the chance to fight side by side in the future. Nice to meet you guys as well. Come, let's go to the survival tower. Lin Chun suggested. Just like that, the group walked toward the survival tower. Chapter 1082. The difficulty of the survival tower is not comparable to the battle god tower. Although I made it to the 4th floor, I only made it to the 3rd floor, and it was very difficult. Of course, there are some powerful warriors with similar battle power and survival ability, but they are too rare. In the God Paradise, only 1 out of 100 people can make it. Lin Chun explained the difficulty of the survival tower to Yi Chen and the rest. Soon, the 13 of them arrived at the entrance of the survival tower and entered. The 1st floor of the survival tower was a vast jungle, filled with poisonous miasma and countless poisonous creatures. Life and death realm warriors would not feel anything at first, but as time went on, they would gradually feel uncomfortable, and their battle power would be greatly reduced. The longer they stayed in there, the more they would be affected. If they wanted to pass the 1st floor, they would have to go through the whole jungle as fast as possible. The first to be eliminated was Li Yifeng. He was an illusion master, and his survival ability was both strong and weak. It all depended on how one looked at it. Obviously, Li Yifeng was not good at surviving in such a harsh environment. The second to be eliminated was Yan Feihua. The third was Lu Wenxiu. The fourth was Xiao Xiyu. The 5th was Zhou Jian. The 6th was Gu Qingxue. Gu Qingxue had already passed through most of the jungle, but there were simply too many poisonous creatures here. These poisonous creatures came in all shapes and sizes. Some could corrode true essence, and some could turn into tiny particles that could penetrate one's protective true essence. There were also some that dominated in numbers, with millions and millions of them surrounding her, making it difficult for her to even take a step forward. Not long after Gu Qingxue came out, Xia Xiaoshan and Yang Ting came out as well. The natural environment of the 2nd floor was not that bad, but compared to the 1st floor, it was several times more dangerous. Once you entered the 2nd floor, you would be in a prison, guarded by demons and evil spirit race demon kings. What you had to do was to follow the prison map provided by the Paradise's badge and escape from this prison. During this time, you would have to fight head-on, sneak attacks, and other strategies. Therefore, it was not enough to just be powerful. You had to have a calm mind and the ability to adapt to situations. Otherwise, if you only relied on your power, you would not be able to pass the 2nd floor unless you could reach the 5th floor. Clang! Cutting down the prison wall, Leng Fifan was about to rush out, but he stopped himself. Outside the prison walls were dozens of evil kings and demon kings. With his strength, it was impossible for him to fight his way out. However, Leng Fifan did not look depressed or dispirited. Instead, a hint of passion flashed across his face. Compared to his previous life, the Paradise of God had brought him more passion and fighting spirit. The more difficult it was, the happier he was. Leng Fifan didn't pass through the 2nd level, but Audiobook did. It was relatively easy for him because his martial arts phantom allowed him to have 3 doppelgangers with powerful battle strength. Relying on these three doppelgangers, Jiu didn't have to expend much effort to escape from this prison filled with traps and devil kings and evil kings. Interesting, this is too interesting. I've long heard that more than 100 life stars in the Black Tortoise starfield have been invaded by the demons and other powerful races. There's a king's prison there, used to imprison the king's prison. It seems this survival tower's second floor is an imitation of the king's prison. Second floor passed. Reward, 60 Shinbi. Yi Chen had also passed the second floor of the survival tower. The second floor might be difficult for others, but to him, it was like his backyard. He could leave and stay as he pleased. This wasn't because his strength had reached the fifth floor of the God of War Pagoda, but mainly because his ability to freeze space was too powerful. Just releasing his sword aura was enough to freeze them. He didn't even need to use the instant sword domain, let alone the instant brilliance. When he reached the third floor, Yi Chen was stunned. The third floor was actually a white dwarf star. On the white dwarf star, there were also demon kings and evil kings. Other than them, there was another evil race, the Wuxia king of the Wuxia race. On the other side of the white dwarf star, there was a platform. As long as one stood on the platform, he would pass the third floor. There weren't many enemies on the white dwarf star, only about 30 of them. But judging from their aura, they were all extremely powerful. Almost none of them were weaker than the Black Destruction King, Zhou Jian. There were 7 or 8 of them who were stronger than Zhou Jian. They had reached the level of Xia Shaoshan or Yang Ting, and the strongest one was no weaker than Ling Fifan. There was a demon king and a Wuxia king respectively. If he was surrounded by 30 enemies, even Yi Chen wouldn't dare to say that he could pass. Of course, Yi Chen didn't intend to pass the third floor. Passing the third floor and reaching the fourth floor meant that his Paradise badge would be upgraded to a basic badge. Within 3 months, he had to enter the hunting tower to hunt. He didn't want to be in such a hurry. After all, he was still a little weak now, and the chances of him dying in the hunting tower were very high. On the white dwarf star, the strong gravity made it impossible for Yi Chen to fly. He could only run on foot. Sometimes he would run in a straight line, sometimes he would take a roundabout route, and sometimes he would run in circles. He tried his best not to let the enemies gather together and split them up. Just like that, Yi Chen killed one enemy after another until there was only a demon king and a Wuxia king left. The Wuxia king's skin was stone gray, and he had a pair of wings on his back. In terms of top combat power, the Wuxia race might not be as strong as the demons, but in terms of average combat power, the Wuxia race surpassed the demons. It was said that there were no weaklings among the demons, but all the Wuxia race were strong. In the universe, the Wuxia race was definitely one of the strongest races. Of course, the demons were the strongest race. So strong. After Jiu killed 7 enemies, he was finally surrounded. He only lasted 1 round before he was blasted into pieces by countless light beams and teleported out of the survival tower. You made it to the third floor. Lin Chun came out with Jiu. He was very surprised. One had to know that Jiu's result in the God of War Pagoda was the third floor, and now he was also at the third floor of the survival tower. Didn't this mean that Jiu's combat power and survival power were equal? Strong people with equal combat power and survival power were 1 in 100 in the paradise of gods. He didn't expect Jiu to be one of them. Not bad. Jiu was not proud. Impressive. I have a feeling that a few of your batch of rookies might become famous people in the paradise of gods in the future. Lin Chun was very emotional. No matter which batch it was, Jiu was the most outstanding one. That Ling Fifan was also very strong. As for that Yi Chen, he was inhuman. Cui Yi's survival power was much stronger than Lin Chun's. He came out after a long while. In the end, only Yi Chen was left. Hey, Cui Yi, do you think Yi Chen can pass the third floor? Lin Chun asked. It's a little difficult, but I don't know why, but I feel that his survival power is stronger than his combat power. However, if I were him, I would not choose to pass the third floor even if my survival power is strong. After all, it's too early to enter the hunting tower now. It's not wise, Cui Yi said in a low voice. That's true. Lin Chun nodded. Just like that, the 12 people waited for Yi Chen outside. After about 5 minutes, Yi Chen came out. Facing everyone's questions, Yi Chen said, I didn't pass the third floor. Actually, he could have passed. As he had never seen the Yiksha king before, Yi Chen had a good fight with him. After killing the Yiksha king, a demon king could not stop him at all. However, he did not want to pass the third floor and be killed by a demon king. A total of 219 shinbi. I should be able to use them for a while. After everyone separated, Yi Chen activated his badge. It showed that he had 219 shinbi. Before coming to the paradise of gods, Yi Chen had 29 shinbi. The first floor of the God of War Pagoda had given him 10 shinbi, 30 shinbi, and 60 shinbi. The first floor of the Survival Pagoda had given him 30 shinbi, and the second floor had given him 60 shinbi. In total, he had 219 shinbi. Let's go to the Earth Upanishad Tower first. Among all the ultimacies that Yi Chen had comprehended, his metal, water, and fire ultimacies were all completed. The metal and water ultimacies were autumn water, the water and fire ultimacies were merciless water and fire, and the metal and earth ultimacies were sky extinction swords. Yi Chen planned to complete the earth ultimacy first. After all, the sky extinction swords were just below moment of glory and merciless water and fire. It was already very powerful before it was completed. Once it was completed, even if its power was not as strong as merciless water and fire, it would still be very sharp. In terms of breaking through defenses, the sky extinction swords with its extreme vibration power was even stronger than merciless water and fire. There were many Upanishad towers in the paradise of gods. Yi Chen found the Earth Upanishad tower and entered it. The Upanishad tower would deduct shinbi every day until you used up all your shinbi. Yi Chen had enough shinbi to last for 21 days. He did not know if it was enough, but he had to try. What a fast speed of comprehension. But soon, Yi Chen realized that he was wrong. The speed of comprehension in the Upanishad tower was shockingly fast. One day in the Upanishad tower was equivalent to 100 days in the outside world. Although the closer one was to completion, the harder it was to comprehend, it was obvious that it was easier to comprehend it to completion in the Upanishad tower. Besides Yi Chen, the others did not choose to enter the Upanishad tower to comprehend their profoundness. Instead, they entered the martial technique tower. As the name suggested, the martial technique tower was used to practice martial techniques. The fee was not high either. The first level only cost 1 shinbi a day. Among the 10 of them, the lowest had more than 10 shinbi. Audiobook had as many as 158 shinbi. They wanted to improve their martial techniques in the shortest time possible and then continue to challenge the God of War Pagoda to earn more shinbi. This was a virtuous cycle. While Yi Chen and the others were focused on cultivating, the Paradise of Gods was abuzz with news about this year's batch of newcomers. What? That's impossible, right? This year's batch of newcomers has reached the 4th level of the God of War Pagoda. And 2 of them are equivalent to the 3rd level. Why would I lie to you? The newcomer who has reached the 4th level of the God of War Pagoda is called Yi Chen. Lu Hu and Tai He both lost to him. The other 2 are called Audiobook and Ling Fifan. They are both super newcomers. That's scary. With their talents, they will probably enter the hunting pagoda in less than 1 or 2 years. They might become the leaders of the Paradise of Gods in the future. No matter what, let's make friends with them first. If there's a chance in the future, we can invite them to join our team. As long as we invite one of them, our team's strength will definitely increase greatly. The scary thing about these geniuses is not their current strength, but their potential and speed of improvement. Yes, we must make friends with them. At least, we can be normal friends. The paradise of gods, which had been quiet for a long time, began to stir. Chapter 1083. 12 days later, Yi Chen's Earth Profound was completed. Of course, it cost him 120 divine coins. Although the Earth Ultimacy had reached perfection, it would still take some time for it to merge with the Metal Ultimacy and make the Sky Absolute Sword even more perfect. After all, the Earth Ultimacy that had merged with the Metal Ultimacy before was greatly different. To perfect the Tianju Sword, he naturally had to go to the Martial Skill Tower. The Martial Skill Tower could create an environment suitable for practicing martial skills according to one's own imagination. What Yi Chen created was a world completely composed of metal and earth yuan qi. This world was not large, only 1,000 miles in radius. Below it was a thick and solid ground, and in the sky, numerous mountain-sized golden iron balls floated. The rich earth yuan qi and metal yuan qi clashed together, creating all kinds of incredible phenomena. Standing in this world, Yi Chen felt that he had a much better understanding of the Tianju sword. Calming himself down, Yi Chen gradually immersed himself in the sword aura of the Tianju sword. After a long while, Yi Chen pulled out the dragon spring sword and simply swung it out. Buzz! Fine ripples spread out, and the golden iron balls in the sky exploded one after another. A long sword mark appeared on the ground, which looked like a huge canyon. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, another 9 days had passed. On this day, Yi Chen suddenly had an idea. The golden and yellow lines combined together in a very mysterious way. Just like this. Suddenly opening his eyes, Yi Chen held his sword with both hands and threw out a sword attack that looked slow but was actually extremely fast. Pop! This part of the world trembled. In the next moment, everything within the range of the sword force disappeared. It was as if a bubble had burst. It was an understatement. The metal and earth profound has been merged even more deeply. Yi Chen thought about that sword attack. As everyone knew, normally, top-rank profound martial skills contain two kinds of profound, such as Yi Chen's Autumn Water, Merciless Water and Fire, and the Tianju sword. As for momentary glory, it belonged to a special top-rank profound martial skill. A martial art contained two kinds of profoundness. Naturally, they had to coordinate with each other and not cause any internal friction. If they were to go even deeper, they would fuse together. The fusion was just a process. The deeper the fusion, the greater the power. At this moment, the metal ultimacy and earth ultimacy of the Sky Absolute Sword had fused even more perfectly. In terms of pure power, it had actually surpassed the merciless water and fire, as well as the moment of glory. Of course, the moment of glory was powerful because of its ability to stop space. The first floor of the martial skill tower only cost 1 shinbi per day. 9 days meant 9 shinbi. Now, Yi Chen had 90 shinbi left. Yi Chen decided not to use these 90 shinbi for the time being. Before he was ready to enter the hunting tower, every single shinbi was precious. Yi Chen exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and exited the martial skill tower. Bang 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 bang, the sound of heavy objects hitting each other was endless, like a violent storm. This was an outdoor stadium that was 1,000 miles long and 100 miles wide. The ground of the stadium was completely made of a special metal, and it looked smooth without any bumps or bumps. The stadium was also surrounded by metal walls that were thousands of meters tall. Within the stadium, there was only one stand in the south, and there were exactly 500 seats on the stand. At this moment, there were dozens of people sitting on the stand. On the stadium, 2 people were holding 5-foot-long metal sticks and hitting a ball. Swoosh! A yellow light flashed. The long-haired young man couldn't react in time. The yellow light brushed past his face and hit the metal wall before bouncing back. I'm impressed. I've already tried my best, but I can only last 30 rounds against you, the long-haired young man said in admiration. I've already reached the 6th level of the God of War Tower. If I can't beat you, I'll be a joke. He had short black hair and was clad in metal armor. This was a very sturdy and calm young man. You'd better find other opponents. I don't want to be beaten by you anymore. The long-haired young man smiled and returned to the stand. Let me try you. At that moment, a young man walked down the stand. It was Audiobook. You must be this year's super newcomer, Audiobook. That's good. I want to see how strong the so-called super newcomers are. The sturdy young man had a smile on his face. He had already heard about this year's 3 super newcomers. This Audiobook could reach the 3rd level of the God of War Tower and the Survival Tower the moment he entered. He was definitely a rare prodigy from the 4 major planets. Of course, he still had to verify whether he was a prodigy or not. A real prodigy could not be weak in other aspects other than strength. This is the Thunderball. Yi Chen had arrived at the stand and sat near Lu Wenxiu, Yan Feihua, and the rest. You're here. Lu Wenxiu and the rest looked over. Other than Ling Fifan and Audiobook, they had already used up their Shinbi. They did not have the confidence to reach the 2nd level of the God of War Pagoda and the Survival Tower in a short time, so they came to watch others play Thunderball. Lu Wenxiu said, Audiobook's opponent is the leader of a low-level team, Huang Hengfei. He is very good at Thunderball. Other than that, he is also one of the top low-level members of the Paradise of Gods. Those who reached the 5th level of the God of War Pagoda or the 4th level of the Survival Tower would become a low-level member of the Paradise of Gods. At that time, they could join a low-level team. Of course, they could also form their own low-level team. Since Huang Hengfei was the leader of a low-level team, he was naturally very strong. You can serve first. Huang Hengfei said. Okay. Audiobook did not decline. He held the Thunderball in his left hand and threw it high. Bam! When the Thunderball fell to a height of 2 meters, Audiobook raised his metal rod and hit the Thunderball. The Thunderball was a little soft and very elastic. As the metal rod hit, the Thunderball was compressed into a flat shape and shot out at an astonishing speed, drawing a yellow line in the air. So that's how it is. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. How the Thunderball was shot out and how it flew at such a high speed was clear in his eyes. Seriously speaking, the Thunderball was a bit like a baseball, but also a bit like a tennis ball. However, the truly frightening part was that it could be infused with Jin Yuan and Qi power. Ordinary people could already reach an unbelievable speed, but 2 life and death kings could reach a frightening speed. It was a test of reaction speed and attack speed. If the reaction speed was not fast enough, one would not be able to see the trajectory of the ball. If the attack speed was not fast enough, one would not be able to catch the Thunderball and counterattack. Quite fast. Huang Hengfei held the metal rod with one hand and easily counterattacked. Bam! Audiobook immediately hit back. Careful. This time, Huang Hengfei did not hit the ball in a straight line, but at an oblique angle. This way, if Audiobook wanted to catch the ball, he would have to move to an oblique angle. If he was a bit slower, he might not be able to catch the ball. This little difficulty is not difficult for me. Audiobook's movement speed was extremely fast. With a flicker in the air, he arrived before the Thunderball. Bam! Audiobook also hit an oblique angle. It's your first time playing the Thunderball, yet you are so skilled. As expected of a super rookie. Huang Hengfei was a little surprised. Playing the Thunderball seemed simple, but it was definitely not so easy to play for the first time. One must know that the Thunderball was infused with energy. If one wanted to hit the Thunderball back, one had to disperse the energy inside and then infuse one's own energy. This process was very short. Unknowingly, more than 10 rounds had passed. Jiu is in danger. Yi Chen suddenly said. What do you mean? Yan Feihua thought that her eyesight was very good, but she did not see anything special. Before Yi Chen could say anything, Jiu suddenly missed. Although he received the thunderball, the angle of his return was very bad. It was clearly a forward volley, but it became a high throw. It's a spinning ball. Yan Feihua suddenly understood. It was very obvious that Huang Hengfei had added a strong spinning force to the ball just now. If one used an ordinary method to catch the ball, it would naturally cause the ball to go out of control. One had to use the same spinning force to neutralize it. This was not a test of one's reaction speed and attack speed, but one's ability to exert force. Leaping up high, Huang Hengfei smashed Jiu. Thank you for letting me win. Huang Hengfei landed. A loss is a loss. Here are 10,000 primeval stones. Jiu took out a box of primeval stones and placed it on the ground. Playing Thunderball required a wager. Under normal circumstances, the wager was 10,000 primeval stones. Of course, if you had a conflict with the other party, you could negotiate with the other party to increase the wager. 100,000, 1,000,000, as long as you had enough primeval stones, you could bet. In the paradise of gods, playing Thunderball was undoubtedly a popular entertainment activity. It could not only entertain the body and mind, but it could also improve one's quality. Huang Hengfei smiled. The other party's personality was not bad. Although this kind of person was arrogant, there was a level of arrogance. In other words, if a genius didn't have arrogance, then it was because he felt inferior. Yi Chen, since you are here, why not come down and play? Huang Hengfei's eyesight was very good. He immediately saw Yi Chen. He had already seen the video of this batch of rookies. I'll do as you say. Yi Chen indeed wanted to play this unique training program. Be careful, his spinning ball has a very high rotation speed. I have no way of surpassing that speed. Jiu reminded Yi Chen as they brushed past each other. Understood. Yi Chen nodded. Old rules, you serve first. Huang Hengfei signaled to Yi Chen. Bang! The ball was thrown up and Yi Chen struck it with his rod. So fast. Many people on the spectator stand were surprised. When Yi Chen threw up the thunderball, his metal rod had already struck out. The two movements were completed at almost the same time, giving people a strong visual impact. Good timing. Huang Hengfei had played the thunderball countless times and had seen this kind of situation before. He played it down and whipped the thunderball at an even faster speed. Bang 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 bang, after a dozen rounds, Huang Hengfei began his spinning ball attack. Huang Hengfei's spinning ball had a rotation speed that ordinary people couldn't compare with. In the blink of an eye, it was unknown how many times it had rotated. If the rotation speed couldn't reach the spinning speed of the spinning ball, the ball would lose control. Of course, Yi Chen was already mentally prepared. The muscles on his right arm swelled and Yi Chen's metal rod struck the lower middle of the thunderball. Swoosh! Not only did the thunderball return, but it also produced a flickering arc trajectory, making people unable to see the trajectory of the ball. What? Looking at the distorted trajectory of the ball, everyone on the spectator stand was shocked. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.